Welcome back to another episode of Wearable Takeover. I am your host, Lakeisha Greenway, also known as Coach L. And you know what? You can now access Wearable Takeover podcast on your favorite podcast app. You can access it on YouTube or a direct link that you might find when we post it on LinkedIn. What we want you to do is to make sure, number one, that you are subscribing to the podcast, that you're leaving us some feedback and also sharing it, because we are showcasing revolutionary innovators, revolutionary technology that's going to solve problems for problems that you face on a daily basis. And so I'm so excited to introduce to you one of our founder ambassadors of Wearable Tech Ventures. Now, some of you might be saying, what's a founder ambassador? So last year, 2022, we launched what we call the inaugural Founder Ambassador Program. And we literally had founders to reach out to us from around the world. And we selected a class, I believe it's about 8 to 10 founders, to join us personally, where they receive one-on-one access, direct access to us, as well as our advisory team. And they are able to get that one-on-one coaching, that one-on-one advisement, but then they also get access to a number of our resources first. So that's the benefit of being a founder ambassador. And then also, our founder ambassadors embody our ideals, meaning that not only do we get, but we give. We give back in order to keep the ecosystem going. So you more than likely will see this particular founder ambassador in person as well as virtually as we launch some of our other programs later in the summer. So do you want to know who this amazing founder ambassador is who's coming to us from Georgia? Well, let me tell you about Joseph Hamilton. Joseph is a former U.S. soldier with a background in sales and marketing, and he graduated with a degree in business from Columbus State University in Georgia. Joseph is also a former collegiate athlete and member of the Divine Nine Greek letter organization, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And I had to, put a little umph into that because I'm a Divine Nine member. I'm a pretty girl. He's a pretty boy. You might see us in person. We might fight over mirrors and he'll just shimmy and I'll just, do a little something with my mirror. But no, I'm so excited. Can we give a virtual round of applause for Joseph? Joseph, how you doing?
Yo, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Outstanding. Joseph, I am so excited about you. And let me just share with our community why your story is so important. So when we were closing out the onboarding process for our founder ambassadors, Joseph actually heard about Wearable Tech Ventures on on a fellow founder ambassadors podcast, and he reached out to us and he was like, I gotta do whatever I gotta do to work with you guys. And his persistence and his approach is and also his innovation. We were like, okay, we're going to make sure that Joseph is in our first class of founder ambassadors, the inaugural class. And so Joseph, I'm so excited about what it is that you are doing. And so, Joseph, why don't you tell everyone, number one, the your wearable product? What's the name of that product? And then also what that particular product does.
Yeah, certainly. So I actually have two wearable products, two wearable tech products. So I'll start with the first one that I reached out to you about. All right. So the first one is called Bacchus, and Bacchus is the Roman god of wine and fertility. So that was where we got the name, as you'll see soon. The problem that it solves. Bacchus is a wearable alcohol monitor that will alert you in real time of your current BAC level. Bacchus will send you notifications such as when you should drink water and eat food when you hit certain benchmarks as you consume alcohol throughout the night or the evening, whenever you're consuming or out with friends. So we call it your personal drinking buddy, right? Bacchus is your personal drinking buddy because it's gonna remind you to slow down, drink water. It could help you make smarter decisions as you go throughout your drinking event.
I love it. I love it. So some of you might be listening. You're like, I totally need that, and I'm identifying all types of partnerships in my head for Joseph as he prepares to launch. He's preparing to launch his first crowdfunding campaign. So you want to make sure you stay tuned to our website, to our newsletter, as well as to our social media, because we're going to help support Joseph as he is launching his crowdfunding campaign. But you'll see him on a lot of stages as well. And so he also mentioned that as a solopreneur, he has self-funded two tech startups, two wearable startups, and we're super excited about Bacchus. And so, wait, let me just take this back a little bit, okay? Because this man is absolutely amazing. He develops on purpose, but he's also one that has served our country. And I want to make sure that we note that. And so we appreciate your service to our country. He was given the Soldier of the Year honor in the Georgia Army National Guard. And then he even ran another business called Knickerball Georgia, and Knockerball, KNOCKERBALL. For those of you that might be saying, we can't hear her. What did she just say? I did not say anything derogatory. Okay. So Knockerball Georgia. So he just told us about the Bacchus bracelet. We're going to dig into that a little bit more. Tell us about your second wearable startup.
Yeah, so the second wearable that I created is called 4 Second Football. 4 Second Football is actually the first smart football to hit the market. That one will be launching probably about the next 60 days. We're just putting final touches on it now. But 4 Second Football is the first smart football that can tell you how long your quarterback has held the ball. In football, which is a sport that I played back in college, typically the quarterback, we give them 4 seconds to get rid of the ball. As you get to higher levels of playing like the NFL, they really only get about 2.5, maybe 3 seconds because guys are so much faster. So I built a football that can tell you how long you've held it. And if you don't get rid of it in time, then a buzzer goes off in our app to indicate that you took a sack. So over time, it should build an internal time clock in your head through repetition as to what 3, 4, 2 seconds is, because you can alternate the timer as you please. It also will track data. So now what can happen is if your quarterback Monday through Friday was performing very well at 3 seconds, well, you should be confident as a coach to know he's going to perform well on Saturday because you can track his data through our app. So we can tell you his average throw time. We can tell you his completion percentage, his touchdown to interception ratio. We can tell you his sack rate, all kind of statistics, all through our football and app.
I'm so excited. And so hopefully we'll be able to showcase some of these products where you could touch and feel and play with them in July. July is the month, folks. That's when we are launching our hackathon, our summer programs. You're going to get to meet more of our founders and see their products in person. And I was just challenging one of our other partners to a gaming competition amongst ecosystem founders and leaders. But I think it'll be cool because Joseph, I don't know if you noticed, but back in the day, I used to play street football.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I was the only girl on the street, like one of the only girls on the street, and so I was a tomboy. I ended up becoming an All-American cheerleader, but my beginnings were on the street playing football and kickball with the kids, and I'm super excited about this. But let's take it back because we're going to dig into these innovations, folks. You definitely want to follow this man. So what's the inspiration behind founding two startups?
Yeah, that's a great question. The reason I started my first company, to be honest, was because it's really a twofold situation. One, I got in trouble when I was in college. I was reckless, like a lot of us might tend to be when we're younger sometimes. And all I kept thinking was, how could I have prevented this from happening? So that was when I just started playing around with the idea. But what really made me want to become an entrepreneur and build a company was, it was a job that I had and I just didn't have a really, nice boss. He, kind of made me feel like my voice was kind of diminished around like social issues. It was around the time that like Trayvon Martin got killed, and I kind
Mhm.
of felt like I couldn't express myself. And all I kept thinking was, I would want to work in a workplace where somebody doesn't make me feel this way. So, I wanted to kind of become the boss that I wish I had. So I was like, why don't I create? It would be cool if I could combine the two, like create a workplace and environment and create a company that solves a need. I found a need that I needed solved. And, when we get to a point where we have employees, like I want to be that employer that, doesn't make anybody feel uncomfortable and has open door policy, and you can come talk to them and gives the employees a voice.
I love it. That's so admirable, and thank you for being so transparent about your journey leading up to where you are right now. And we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that. But that inspiration is so important. And one of the key things you said was the social justice, right? Considering that there's been so many Black males, so many Black boys that have been murdered on the streets senselessly, amongst our own, but then also from those that that take an oath to protect and to serve us.
Right.
And so, actually, if you do not know the history of Wearable Tech Ventures, we actually started. Um, we were originally Glam Tech, but originally I wanted to develop a product for myself, but I understood that the system needed something much more than my product, and we started as a result of the Freddie Gray murder in
Hmm.
Baltimore. And so we wanted to make sure that there was a platform available for genius of Black, brown, underrepresented folks to be seen on a stage. And so that's how we started. And now we're global. And I'm really excited about Joseph's products and how he's going to grow. Now, Joseph, you're going to need a team. You're going to need a team. So right now, who's on your team? Tell us that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Bacchus, I just partnered with a gentleman named Bamil Patel. I've known Bamil. He actually was the person who, at first he started out as a contractor and he was the one building it for me.
Hmm.
And I just got to a point where, funds kind of were drying up. He had always expressed that he had interest in the data. He considers himself like a data scientist.
Hmm.
So, he told me that he would love to join the team and he wouldn't charge me, the rest of the way to finish building it out. So here we are. And with the football, there's a gentleman named Vishal Patel. They're not related. I just want to throw that out there. But
Uh-huh.
both very smart gentlemen. Vishal went to Georgia Tech. He's worked with some pretty big companies. Stanley, I think Stanley and Decker. And so now he's joined the team, finishing up working on the software, hardware for 4 Second Football.
I love it. So Joseph, he has his co-founder partners, if you will, and this is a notion for all of you founders out there. You may be technical, you may be non-technical. You could be looking for folks to fill your particular gaps. Make sure you have agreements in place. Make sure you have those agreements and that are signed by each party so that there's an understanding of who owns what, especially because when we talk about the overall tech ecosystem, data is key. And one of the key elements of wearable tech is data. And so that's one of the things that makes this industry so attractive, in addition to the problems that we solve, is that data piece. And it's incredibly important that our founders in this ecosystem, that you're protecting yourself, that you're protecting your innovation, and that you're putting all of those things in writing as it relates to who owns what does that partnership look like, and how do you move forward? Now, one other thing for those of you that are listening to this particular episode, maybe this is your first introduction to the Wearable Takeover podcast. I want to make sure that you listen to the previous episode that we recorded with Eric McKinney, and he provided some insight from a VC accounting perspective as far as what founders should have in place to get ready for investment. And so I want to make sure that I'm highlighting that again, because founders, it's amazing if you have these ideas and you're investing so much of your own money in early stages to develop your prototypes and to get this product ready for the market. We want to make sure that you're protected and that you're ready all around, legally, from accounting, tax, etc. Right? So I wanted to insert that real quick. I'll get off my soapbox. We'll have some other programming available for all of you that may be saying, how do we do this? How do we work? Who should we go to? Make sure you're listening to the Wearable Takeover podcast, because we drop gems. We drop gems for free. And all you got to do is download and just listen to the episode and take notes. Okay. So anyway, Joseph, so you're going to probably be adding to your team. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Always looking to grow the team because, no man is a one man army, right? So you can't do it alone. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so let me just put a plug here. Another reason why it's so important that our listeners and supporters and partners attend our activities that we're currently hosting in July from the standpoint of the hackathon and the camps is because it's also a talent scouting opportunity, not only for our sponsoring companies, but for our startups. Our startups are growing. They're looking for people to join their teams. And so when you participate in our hackathon series, if they see something special in you, the way that you're interacting with folks, the way that you're solving problems, or whatever it is that you're doing that is special to them, that's the prime opportunity to get chose. That's how they say it in the street. Come on out here and get chose, right? So, so another reason, if you're like, maybe I don't like what I'm doing, maybe I got laid off, maybe I want to try something new, you need to register at wearabletechventures.org. Make sure you're registered for the hackathon. It's free, okay? And we're doing it hybrid, in person and virtual. But our startup founders, our startup leaders, they're looking for talent to help build out their startups. And that's the key prime opportunity to get chose, okay? So, Joseph, what are you looking for in future teammates? I'm going to call them teammates instead of employees. What are you looking for in future teammates?
Yeah, to be honest, I look for certain like intangibles because I feel like from a tangible aspect, there are certain things that you could just be good at, whether you're good at like logistics, supply chain, sales. If you're good at software engineering, right? Like that's a skill that you could just, flat out be good at. But I look for the intangibles. All right. So like your people skills, your attention to detail, your response time, like, if you say that you're going to have something done by Friday, right? Like, was it done by Friday? Can I depend on you to have it done by Friday? Like, I'm just really big on accountability. And that's the biggest thing, right? I think the accountability and availability.
Yeah.
Is kind of like, in sports, my coach always said the best ability is availability. And then the second best is accountability. Kind of like, can I hold you accountable to do your job? So it's the intangibles. But I will say you do have to have like those hard skills as well. But those can still always be developed. And I can be a lot more patient with a person that has a passion. Like they just have a dire driving passion. Because I know that's how I was before, I got to where I am. I just had a passion and want to keep continue learning and to get in there and somebody just give me a chance.
I
So
love it. Those are admirable traits that you mentioned. So important when hiring and when transitioning from the startup founder to building and developing a business ultimately, right? And that's one of the things that investors are looking for. They want to know, can this truly be a business, not just this startup that's cute? So you said something about development. What do you attribute to your development as a leader today? Who or what were you listening to? What were you attending? What were you reading? What are some things that you can share with our audience that helped to shape and develop you into who you are today?
yeah, certainly. I think the number one thing, the number one person I would have to say is my father. Just kind of like how my father raised me. He was really tough on me. That definitely is what helped mold me into like a leader and the person that I am today. Then second, I would have to say like playing sports. I know they say sports builds character. So, you know, a lot of people are fans of people playing sports. But to me, sports is like a microcosm of life. It's the greatest microcosm to life, in my opinion. Like there are so many similarities between sports and many other things that you will experience in life. You know, being up, being down, staying even keel, having adversity, having competition, preparing like a whole season in advance. It's so many things that I can translate from the sports world into the business world, which is why I always thought that I would be successful. Then, you know, being a part of my fraternity, you know, leadership is one of the pillars that we were founded on, leaders in the community. So these are some of the things that I would say help mold me into being the leader that I am today. But like I said, I think one of the biggest ones would just be sports. Because I mean, you have to learn how to take the good with the bad. You have to learn how to take the losses. You have to learn that like when things are not going right or well, like are you just going to give up and quit? I've never been able to quit anything. Right? I'll tell you, I've been working Bacchus for about 10 years.
I was just about to ask that. That was my next question. I wanted to know how long does this take? Because, you know, today the startup world is glorified. Like, you know, like a microwave. Boy, I got an idea tomorrow. I could get investors, right? So yeah, let's go there. 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I have some friends in this startup ecosystem, right? And they're like my therapists that that we vent to each other. And we were just talking the other day about like, man, you kind of got to be crazy to get into this startup world because it is extremely difficult. Like it is so
Mhm.
hard. You really have to be built for it. Like
Yes.
something just has to be off in your brain. Um, and I mean that so seriously to
Or
like one of
incredibly focused or have that vision, right?
yeah, no, I get that, but it's like it's I told him I said a founder to me is like a firefighter who is constantly putting out fires. And it
Yeah.
seems like a fire is always coming up every
Hmm.
week, if not every month. And you just constantly have to like get up, go get your hose and go fight this fire. And at times you get tired. Like I'll be completely transparent. There was one time where I wanted to give up my idea, right? I wanted to give it up, but I had put so much into it. I was like, I need to get something back. I
Yeah.
attempted to reach out to one of my competitors who, you know, was ahead of me just because they had more notoriety,
Hmm.
right? I attempted to reach out to them and I basically asked them for a job and was like, hey, I've been researching this. Would you all be interested in bringing me in? I bring my research and my skill set. And, you know, that email went unanswered. And I'm glad it went unanswered. So glad
Hmm.
it went unanswered. You're right. Because I wouldn't be sitting here today. So, you know, you just have to like just keep going. And it's a lot easier said than done.
You know what? I'm so glad you were transparent, and let me just take it back to one of our first episodes of the calendar year 2023. We had Rashad Mills on, and he's a therapist, and we advocate for our founders to get therapy as well as coaching because, as Joseph said, this is not an easy journey. I remember I was talking in Pennsylvania at the Pennsylvania Women's Conference, and there were some physicians and dentists and other women in STEM that were considering a startup. And I told them, do not get into this space unless you will dedicate at least 7 years to your idea. And Joseph, I could just see the eyebrows go up. People were like, what? And I said, seriously, because if you cannot fathom dedicating 7 years, don't even get into it. Because you don't know. It may not take 7 years, it may take a little bit more. You just don't know. But if you don't have that grit, if you don't have that focus, if you don't have that perseverance, if you don't have that passion, you will be gone at the first sight of resistance. And I'm so appreciative of you being transparent about the need for community, the need to find founders that you can share your experiences with. And that's why our founder ambassador program is so important because we understand our wearable founders are so unique, right? The importance for having that support system where you just really need to vent and for folks to be patient with you and understanding that this might take a while. And we already know the stats when we talk about articles and who receives venture funding or whatnot, but rarely do we ever get to discuss who those angels are, or who are the angels that are going to step in to assist our founders so that they can even get to the venture part of the funding. And when we talk about Black and brown founders specifically, and female founders, that's a long, hard road to even get to that. So there's alternative ways of financing and getting to the point where you can even achieve a prototype. And so I'm gonna ask you next, Joseph, like, what was your journey like on getting angel investment? Did you have that experience? Did you go to family? Did you fund? What did that funding yourself like look like? And I want us to be incredibly real, because the more that we can be transparent and show people some of the things that our founders have to go through, perhaps they'll get a better understanding of some things that we need to put in place to prevent that from ever happening again. Right. So
Right.
that's the first thing. Let's start there.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. I hope that my answer can help somebody else, right? That might be looking for options. But the very first thing was, I used my own money, right? In the beginning, I just picked up extra jobs, right? Okay, so that wasn't enough money. So then
Yeah.
my next step that I did was I had been working a few years. I had saved up a little bit of money earlier in my 401k. So I was still kind of young, and I was like, well, I can always, restart my 401k. So I had went ahead and I had tapped my 401k. All right. That money then ran out. Okay. So then what I ended up doing was there was a program where they could get you like unsecured line of credit. It was a program where like if you pay these people for their service, they'll go represent you to the banks, and then they'll come back with either personal credit cards or business credit cards. And I
Mhm.
knew it was a risk because these credit cards were like super high interest, going to be completely transparent. There are a lot of people who sell services now. Buy my ebook, and I can help you get 60,000 in funding. I'm going to be on the other end of the transparency and say like mine came with extremely high interest rates, right? So you have to be cognizant of that, especially if you don't have a plan to generating revenue within the short term.
Mhm.
So being that I was technology and I had to go through R&D, that was what the money was needed for. So
Yeah.
much R&D, and you don't know what you don't know, right? Even if you were to ask me today, how would I do it different? I would tell you I don't know. Like I don't know how else I would get money different, because I literally, Lakeisha's fine. I just did a family and friends round for 4 second football. Like I'm literally doing it now. I just got my first $12,000, and I have some more thousands of commitment, but they just haven't sent the money in. The
Mhm.
only reason I even have their money now is because I actually have a working prototype that they can see. So it's
Yeah.
like they're now believers. And I'm telling them that, hey, your investment, we're going to tweak a few of these bugs and make this thing as perfect as can be. But when I just had an idea, nobody was interested, right? I had to like put up my own money first to make them believers
Mhm.
and give and show them the vision. So I think the only way around it is to get a partner earlier that can help you build. But I'll tell you, I tried that and um I tried looking for a partner, and here was the reality. The people who were qualified to build it, they wanted way too much that like I would have gotten nothing. And the people who weren't qualified to build it, right? It's kind of like I didn't really want them because I knew I was gonna waste time because I knew they couldn't build it. Like I just could kind of tell they didn't have enough experience to kind of, they didn't really know how to talk like the lingo in the beginning. Because in the beginning, I did have an advisor, and so he would kind of help steer me. In the people that I was vetting, they didn't really know how to talk the lingo. So that was my journey. Multiple jobs, tapped my 401k, and then I went ahead and took out some credit and maxed all of that out. And then now I'm still working multiple jobs, being very transparent.
Mhm.
And here we are now doing the family and friends round. But I'm so confident that, okay, one last point though. Every step that I would spend money, I said, I'm not going to continue to spend money unless I know I have some traction.
Yes.
So with my very first prototype or my very first proof of concept, right? I went out and I tested the market with my proof of concept. And I
Mm-hmm.
always said, if I don't have so much of a reaction, then I'm dead in it right here. Like, I'm done. I'm not going to spend any more money and I'm going to just take my loss. But
Good.
I did so much research. I did so much research before I spent a dime. I did so much research. But
I,
yeah, it was a journey. I've been, ripped off all of that, so it was a journey, but I've definitely grown in it and I'm so much better for it today.
that is so important that you put your own stops and losses into this particular process, right? So you said, before I make a decision, I have to have these certain things in place so that I can move forward. If it's going to be a yes or a no, if I'm going to move forward. And investors look for that type of thinking in founders, because investors are saying, how much skin do you have in the game? And how do we know if you're going to make a good decision? And you've basically demonstrated that, yes, it took me a while, it took me some years. I had to, do some things non-traditionally to bring this to fruition, but I'm a better manager because of it. I'm a better risk manager because of it. I've been able to learn from some mistakes and then gain some traction. And that key word is traction. So you're able to demonstrate all of those things, which are all essential elements that a leader and a startup founder needs in order to be successful. I do want to kind of backtrack because you were talking about a lot of the research and some of a number of the challenges that you have faced. And that's one of the beautiful things about Wearable Tech Ventures. When, as we continue to develop our global ecosystem, we've been working with partners to develop new pathways of funding. Number one, because we understand wearable founders. Everybody does not understand a wearable founder. We understand our wearable founders. And so that's why, if you're listening to this, you want to make sure that you look at the show notes, as well as you go to our website and sign up for the newsletter. There's a new cohort that's opening up for the National Institutes of Health Institute of Aging Boot Camp. And so there's funding associated with that. So our founder ambassadors get first dibs to apply to that. The rest of you can also see if you qualify to apply for that as well. But we were very instrumental in helping to bring that to life. We've also been working in vetting our investment partners in not just overnight, not over 6 months. We've been vetting these potential partners and existing partners for years. And so all of this has been intentional, because listening to Joseph's story, yes, he's learned and he's gained, but what we want to do is to perfect this process to a point where our founders don't have to work so hard that that they're missing out on some other opportunity. And so I'm grateful to you, Joseph, for staying in the game, for developing yourself, for really selling your family and friends. And so can I just be transparent, Joseph?
Yeah.
We're Black, right? Is that
Right.
We're Black. Black
We know.
families are not going to get most Black families are
Nope.
not going to give you money for an idea. And so for Joseph to have gone through his process, and I'm glad had you explained, you're like, at first with the idea, they said, nope, we want to see this, a concept or whatnot. And now he's been able to gain some traction with his funding. That's a significant feat for a Black founder. Just putting it out there. Let me just be as plain as I could be. Because a lot of times your family, they'll be supportive, or your friends, they'll be supportive and introduce you to somebody. But when it's time to pull out that wallet, that's a whole different story. So has any of your family or friends told you how you inspire them, or anything that they've learned from you by watching your journey?
Yeah, my mom tells me all the time how incredibly proud of me she is, and my perseverance. Right? I mean, that's one of the things I think. Also, one of my high school friends that's kind of watched my journey. He just made a comment one time like, "Man, you've always had this relentless energy about you, and it's definitely helping you now." And yeah, and some of my other friends who are also on the journey with me, just let me know like all the time, like, man, you inspire me to keep going, because, you never know when you're going to hit that diamond, right? We have the visual of the man with the hammer, well, not the hammer, but he's digging, and it's like, and the diamond's a few feet away. You just never know when you're going to hit that diamond,
Mm-hmm.
and get your breakthrough. And so, I don't even consider that I've had like my real breakthrough yet, right? But I know it's coming because I could just feel the energy flowing at this point, right?
Yes.
Um, you know, at my last I just went to the largest high school coaches association conference in January. And I took the football prototype, right? It wasn't even the fully developed one. It was the prototype. And so many coaches said, I need this next week. That
Yes.
was, and see, that was that traction that told me, okay, go do your family and friends round now. Right now, you're ready because, to your point, they don't want to just give up money. They always want to know, how can you avert my risk, right? Like, how can you guarantee I'm gonna get my money back? And it's like, well, one, there's no guarantee, but I can try to reduce as much risk as possible. So, to answer your original question, though, people are just proud of my relentless effort, my perseverance, how I just continue to put my head down and keep trucking, um, no matter how hard it is. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
And I see this as a dual sell for a lot of programs. And I went to a D1 school. I'm not gonna put the name out there, but
Uh-oh.
if y'all know me, just wait till football season. I'm totally gonna represent. But I could see both of your products being taken in at the same time by a lot of these different programs. One, to keep players out of trouble, right? Especially a lot of these collegiate players, keep them out of trouble. Make sure they're not getting DUIs or getting stopped by the police. And then also number two, from that training perspective, to help them train more effectively and efficiently. So I definitely see, these two going together. Ultimately, what do you envision for your wearable products?
Oh, envision. You mean like we talking like 5, 10 years down the
Where would you like
road?
it to go? Like, what's like the thing that says that's success?
Okay. Success to me, because I like to beat stereotypes. Like that's success to me. I just like to defeat stereotypes.
Hmm.
So I actually, want at least one of these businesses. I want to hold on to it and take it public, right?
Okay.
Because I know we always say like the big goal is, a buyout, right, to get acquired. And I just want to change narrative, right? I want to have some ownership. And I want to represent people who typically don't have ownership, because we typically may sell our businesses, our ideas, and there's nothing wrong with that. I
Exactly.
just want to change, I just want to change the narrative. um Another idea that, to be honest with you, another thing that I would consider success. Okay, I'm a big advocate for like my hometown. Like, I love the town that I'm from, which is Columbus, Georgia, right? I have another idea, which I'm not starting yet because I'm not putting too much on my plate. But if I get to a level of success where I can get some money in my pocket and then start my next idea, I would love to take my next idea to my hometown and provide jobs.
Yes.
It's another tech idea, and that could put more money in the ecosystem down there, and bring better jobs, because I know the type of jobs that are available there, which is they have good ones but not so many. That's why a lot of people leave and come to Atlanta. So
Hmm.
I just want to change the narrative, and that would be success to me if I could take a business public and then get another business and move it to my hometown, and try to change trajectory there. That would be what I consider success.
A man with a vision, a man with a plan. And I'm so happy that you discussed what that ultimate plan is and how that equates to success as well for you. Because just being incredibly transparent, investors at first they might shy away and say, oh, there's too much on this founder's plate. But we understand our founders. We understand our founders' dynamics, and we're really out here providing solutions to problems that we face every single day. So it's good to know that one of these businesses you're saying, okay, there's an exit there. One of them, though, long term, I want to be ringing that bell and I want to go public. And it can and it will happen. I believe that for you because we got partners that have done that type of stuff. And so
Mhm.
that's the beauty of, having this ecosystem and helping our founders. One other thing I just want to, kind of highlight, you were talking about the prototype process, right? And I want to kind of discuss that a little bit more for those that may be listening, because a lot of our wearable founders are getting prototypes. And one of the things that we've been working on here at Wearable Tech Ventures is identifying partners within the US to assist our founders with the prototype development. And so we've identified, I could say, at least 4
Wow.
facilities that we're going to be partnering with in the near future to assist our founders in that process. But what are some tips that you can share with founders as they might be navigating the prototype process? And I think it's better coming from you versus them, going online and trying to research how do I get a prototype. What are some tips you have, and some lessons learned as you were trying to assume your prototype?
Yeah, as far as tips, I'll say this. I think tips come from experts, right? And I will be honest, I'm not an expert, right? Or at least not yet. I'll be very transparent there, but I will definitely say what I would work for me. Um, my very first prototype, I needed somebody who could build it for my price, right? I went online and I found contractors, right? And
Wait,
this
wait, wait, wait.
engineering.
How did you know your price, though? How did you know your price?
Be completely honest with you, my price was gonna be more so like a what are you gonna charge me? And then I'll see if I can make it work. That's
Okay,
the
and
wrong way
that's
to do
real.
it.
That's real,
That's
though. That's real. That's how some founders may be starting. So I wanted you to share that on purpose, because again,
okay,
these are things that founders they're thinking the same thing, Joseph. They're thinking the same
right,
thing, and they may be looking and getting different answers from elsewhere. But now you've got 2 successful prototypes, right? So that's why I
right.
wanted you to. Okay, so go ahead. So you said, "What's my price?" Keep going. What else?
Right, because I was blind, right? I was blind. Like that wasn't something you can get on Google and look up. Like how much does a prototype cost? There's so many variables that could go into a price. So I didn't know. Do I need 50,000, 20,000, 10,000, 5,000? Okay, so I went out and I went on Meetup was what I actually did. I found what type of engineer I needed, right? Because
Mhm.
that was when I was learning about electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, software engineers. Which one do I need? Me being hardware, I really needed all 3, right?
Uh-huh.
So I found a guy on Meetup. I messaged a Meetup group member. He put me in connection with a good friend of his who he said, I think this guy may be interested in meeting with you, based off my concept. This guy was a software engineer, so he then introduced me because he's worked on other projects, like some projects that have been on Shark Tank. He's worked on
Okay.
other projects, and so he introduced me to the team that he's worked with in the past. That's actually how I met my partner now, Bamil. I really feel like I was blessed, if you want the honest truth, because Bamil, his company, they work with startups. They price so that it can be affordable for startups. Because I think a part of their business model is they help you get your prototype and get started. Then you'll probably need them for manufacturing down the line, so that way they can keep that residual going for years to come.
Mhm.
Um, which is he, absolutely, in my opinion, right about. So that was how I got started with mine. But I will also say this, looking back and going through, think about the courses I've taken and stuff, MVP is a big thing. And that stands for minimal viable product. I had a lady tell me one time, she literally told me, don't put any more money into Bacchus.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't listen. Who knows if I should have or shouldn't, but I was in this course. She said, they teach you, in this course. There are 2 theories. One theory is build it and they'll come. That's what some people say, build it and they'll come. Another one is you test the market, you find the problem, and then you build the solution based off of what customers tell you. But you have to do it through customer discovery, so you can't just ask them like directly. You have to like kind of like pillow talk and find out what their problems are and then build it.
Mhm.
So this lady was of the second opinion, right? Find the problem, build the solution. That way you reduce your risk. And she was telling me, she was like, well, how do you know people want to know how intoxicated they are as they drink? And I told her, I said, there's no way I can ask a series of questions to find that out. But I said, people can't even conceptualize the idea because nobody's done it. Like, how
Yeah.
could I ask you a series of questions to ask you if you know? But this is what I told her. I got in trouble and I took a class, and it was in my class where I came up with the idea. I said, I bet you if I go to any of these classes with other people who have gotten in trouble, they would more than likely probably have a high conversion of people who would want this, right? That's a tip I hope people may take to heart. Your first customers could be where you came up with the idea. Like,
Mm-hmm.
think of where you saw the problem, and then that could be your first customers into the market. So yeah, she told me, oh, build an MVP, minimal money, go build something. I'm like, well, how do you build a minimal bracelet that can tell you, how intoxicated you are through the skin? Like, how do you build that in a minimal way? So um yeah, I know that was a mouthful, but my MVP cost me some money, but it was worth it. I did a pre-sale like sign up. I got like 80 emails for people who are waiting on my pre-sale campaign. So I think it was worth it. I went on social media, did some content creation to test the theory. Those are ways that you can test the market as an MVP. To be honest, it doesn't always have to be building a product. It could be something much more simpler, and social media is a free tool. So yeah, I hope that answered your question though. I know you asked me
Lots of
about.
wisdom there. Lots of wisdom there. So if you're a founder, you need to rewind some of what he said and listen to it again, because there's a lot of wisdom. And one of the best ways to become wise is not to do all this stuff on your own, but to listen to someone that's already done it. All right. And learn from the lessons that they have already gone through. And again, Joseph, I so appreciate your transparency. This is the one of the beautiful things. And I just love being a founder of this ecosystem because I get to work with founders such as you, that work with other founders. And I'm a strong believer that iron sharpens iron. And just imagine, folks, what we're doing. We're taking it over. That's why this podcast is called Wearable Takeover. We're taking it over from the standpoint of experience and testing, and becoming successful. So I'm just so excited. So Joseph, I'm excited for everyone to get to meet you, to test out the product. We'll be working with you and our other founders on some tips for crowdfunding. So we got some resources coming in for that. But what else would you like to share with our listeners before we sign off on this episode?
uh I don't. I'll say this. Um, some good advice somebody told me once before was, don't chase the money, chase your passion, and if you chase your passion, then the money will chase you. So, you know, I just say that because I see a lot of people, complain about money all the time, and everybody says they want to be a millionaire today. And my first question is, well, how are you going to do it? Um,
Yeah.
but and I think that leads to like mental health issues, because then when people don't get money, then they're like wondering why other people are getting stuff. And so, me, my whole thing was just chase your passion. And I always said, if it doesn't work out, it wasn't meant to be, right? God has a final answer. So I was like, if it's not meant to be, it won't happen. But I'll be okay with that, knowing that I at least chase my passion, and knowing that I actually still get to do my other passion, which is digital marketing. So, so yeah, if I had to leave one piece of advice, if you chase your passion, then what they say, you'll never feel like you're working. It'll never feel like a day at work if you
Uh-huh.
chase your passion. So yeah, that would be one piece of advice that I would leave with.
I love it, Joseph. We love your passion. We love your vision. You dropped some gems as it relates to self-care tips on this episode. We talked about therapy. You mentioned that, like, oh, it's easy to go crazy on this journey, but when you also have community, when you have those safe spaces, it definitely helps the journey to developing something revolutionary, much more meaningful, and a little bit easier, if we could even call it that. And
Right.
where can folks go to get on your list so that they can be one of the first to get a product? How can they support you with crowdfunding? Like, where do you want people to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Follow me on Instagram at Bacchus Bracelet. You
Spell that,
can
spell that for them. Spell it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's Bacchus, bracelet, Bracelet. Um, and then the website is being revamped right now, so you can't really interact on there, but you can email me at info@bacchusbracelet.com. And so if you want to join my waiting list for the pre-sale campaign, just shoot me an email, let me know. I will throw you on there. And then for the football, you can find me on all social media platforms at 4 Second Football. 4 Second Football. You can email me at info@4secondfootball. And that website is live, so you can go there. You can see demos. If any coaches are watching, you can place pre-orders now. We'll be delivering midsummer before the fall camp.
I love
So,
it. So is that the number four, or is it four spelled out? Four
oh yeah,
second.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the number four. So, the number 4 second football.
Outstanding. So, folks, here you have it. And then you're also on LinkedIn. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn at Joseph Hamilton. I know sometimes it's hard to find me. But yes, I am on LinkedIn at Joseph Hamilton. And both those pages are on LinkedIn as well.
Okay. So, folks, you heard it here. He is preparing. He is preparing to bring these products to the forefront. So, by the time you listen to this episode, if you're listening to it, it may be in the summertime of 2023 or beyond. I'm pretty sure the sites will be up, but in the interim, you can still reach him via email, as he already mentioned. And we are happy to support Joseph on his journey. So, as he continues to share more information about the waiting list and with his crowdfunding efforts, we'll be sharing these in our newsletters as well as our other founders. So, Joseph, thank you so much for being a great ambassador for Wearable Tech, and also for being incredibly inspirational. And folks, stay tuned. We just got a few more announcements, and we hope that you make sure that you subscribe, leave us a review, and give Joseph a virtual high five. Thanks for listening to this episode of Wearable Takeover.